Hi, and welcome, horror enthusiasts, to another chilling episode of The Horror Within Me, a podcast dedicated to the world of horror. I'm your host, Eric, and today we're taking a break from the typical movie review and delving into the eerie world of horror movie sequels. Whether you're a first-time listener or a returning fan, thank you for joining me today. Have you ever wondered what distinguishes a spine-chilling sequel from a forgettable flop? What sends shivers down our spines in some cases, while others barely make us flinch? Join me as we embark on a journey to uncover the secrets behind the success and failures of horror movie sequels. So, grab your security blanket, bolt the doors, and let's plunge into the abyss of terror. Horror movie sequels. They're as endless as screams in the night. From the gripping Halloween 2 to the nerve-wracking Paranormal Activity 2, it seems every dark corner of cinema harbors a sequel lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting audiences. But let's not overlook the missteps. The sequels that stumble like lost souls in the dark. From the Blair Witch 2 to the Grudge 2, these films serve as cautionary tales, reminding us that sometimes it's best to let sleeping horrors lie. Sequels have the power to elevate the terror of their predecessors to new heights, yet they can also fall flat, leaving us yearning for the bone-chilling thrills we once knew. Today, we're dissecting this phenomenon, unraveling the threads that weave a horror sequel into either a spine-tingling success or a bone-chilling disappointment. But before we descend further into the abyss, let's kick things off with this week's terrifying trivia question. Brace yourselves. What movie marked the dawn of horror movie sequels? Stick around until the end of the episode for the answer. Now, let's journey into the darkness, starting with the triumphs. Sequels like Aliens and The Conjuring 2 emerge from the shadows of their predecessors, seizing us with fear. They're like aged wine, growing richer with time, leaving us haunted and craving yet another sequel. Yet for every Aliens, there's a Jaws the Revenge, where the terror seems as misplaced as a zombie with a broken limb. These are the sequels that miss the mark entirely, leaving us baffled and questioning their very existence. Whether it's a rush plot, lackluster scares, or characters as dull as tombstones, these films serve as a reminder of the fine line between terror and tedium. However, not all sequels dwell in the shadow of the predecessors. Take The Evil Dead 2, for instance. It defies expectations, blending humor with horror, and still manages to send shivers down our spines. Plus, Bruce Campbell's chin deserves its own horror franchise at this point. As we plunge deeper into the abyss, let's shed light on some notable horror movie sequels. Number 1. Halloween 2, the sequel to John Carpenter's classic slasher film. Number 2. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, the third installment in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Number 3. Evil Dead 2, a sequel and quasi-remake of the original Evil Dead. Number 4. Aliens, directed by James Cameron, this sequel to Ridley Scott's Alien. Number 5. The Conjuring 2, the second film in the Conjuring universe. Number 6. Scream 2, the sequel to Wes Craven's meta-horror film Scream. Number 7. The Exorcist 3, based on the novel Legion by William Peter Blatty, the sequel to The Exorcist. Number 8. Paranormal Activity 2, a prequel and a sequel to the original Paranormal Activity. Number 9. Friday the 13th, Part 2, where we first meet Jason Voorhees. And number 10. Insidious, Chapter 2, the sequel to Insidious. Now, nevertheless, amidst the shadows, there lie sequels that falter. Here are horror movie sequels considered flops. Number 1. Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows. The sequel to the highly successful found footage horror film The Blair Witch Project failed to capture the same magic as its predecessor and was panned by critics. Number 2. Exorcist II: The Heretic. Following the monumental success of The Exorcist, this sequel was widely criticized for its convoluted plot and departure from the tone of the original film. Number 3. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge. While the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise became a horror classic, the second installment was met with mixed reviews, criticized for its departure from the original's concept and its homoerotic subtext, which was controversial at the time. Number 4. The Rage Carrie 2. A sequel to the iconic horror film Carrie, this follow-up failed to recapture the critical acclaim and cultural impact of the original. Number 5. Halloween Resurrection. Despite the success of the original Halloween series, this installment was poorly received by critics and fans alike, often criticized for its nonsensical plot and lackluster execution. Number 6. Prom Night 2: Hello, Mary Lou. As a sequel to the original Prom Night, this film was a departure from the slasher genre and didn't resonate with audiences as its predecessor did. Number 7. Poltergeist 3. The third installment in the Poltergeist series received negative reviews for its lackluster storyline and failure to capture the terror of the original film. Number 8. The Ring 2. While the first American adaptation of The Ring was a commercial success, its sequel failed to impress critics and audiences, often criticized for its lack of originality and scares. Number 9. Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. As the final installment in the Paranormal Activity series, this film received negative reviews and underperformed at the box office compared to its predecessors. And lastly, number 10, The Grudge 2. A sequel to the American adaptation of the Japanese horror film Ju-on: The Grudge, this installment failed to capture the same level of fright as the original and received mostly negative reviews from critics. So, those were just a couple of instances where sequels fell short of capturing the terror of their predecessors. Nevertheless, they've managed to find a special place in the hearts of devoted fans, highlighting the subjective essence of horror. Now, let's take a quick break from the show. Hey there, horror lovers. Before we dive back into the spine-chilling thrills of our show, let's take a moment to talk about something every true horror fan needs in their life: Fangoria. Since 1979, Fangoria has been the ultimate authority in contemporary horror, bringing you the blood-curdling tales, the gory details, and even the occasional demonic possession that sends shivers down your spine. What better way to start your day than with a dose of horror alongside your morning coffee? Fangoria's got you covered. But that's not all. They've got some seriously cool merch too, perfect for showing off your love for the macabre. So if you haven't already, head over to Fangoria.com and subscribe today. And here's the kicker. Use promo code HorrorWithinMePod at checkout for an exclusive 20% discount off your order. That's right, save big on terror and treat yourself to the best in horror entertainment. Now enough chit-chat. Let's get back to the show and unleash the horrors that await us. Stay spooky, my friends. Amidst the darkness, some sequels hold a special place in my twisted heart. Those are Halloween 4, Friday the 13th Part 7, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: The Dream Warriors. They have been faithful companions through my many dark nights, both metaphorically and literally. But what separates the terror from the tedium? Successful sequels understand the essence of the original, building upon its foundations while introducing fresh horrors. They're crafted with care, guided by reverence for the genre, and fueled by a desire to terrify. It's all about expanding the twisted mythos of the original. We're talking about peeling back the layers of darkness to reveal the chilling origins of our favorite monsters or uncovering hidden horrors lurking in the shadows. But it's not just about revealing the dark underbelly of the story. It's also about the characters. We need protagonists who aren't just facing the horrors of the present, but are haunted by the ghosts of their past. It's the evolution of these characters that keeps us hooked as they navigate through the twisted maze of terror. Of course, a killer horror sequel doesn't just rely on old tricks. We need innovation storytelling that keeps us guessing at every turn. Twisty timelines, unexpected plot twists, and narrative jolts that leave us breathless. That's what keeps us coming back for more. And let's not forget about the scares. We're talking about cranking up the tension until it feels like your heart might burst from your chest. Whether it's a jump scare that sends shivers down your spine or a slow burn dread that creeps up on you like a shadow in the night, the best horror sequels know how to keep us on the edge of our seats. But it's not all about the new. A killer sequel pays homage to the original, weaving in subtle references and callbacks that send chills down our spines. It's about respecting the legacy of what came before while carving out a terrifying new path. And speaking of new paths, a great horror sequel isn't afraid to take risks. Whether it's introducing new monsters, exploring different subgenres, or pushing the boundaries of visual and sound design, creativity is key to keeping the fear fresh. Conversely, lackluster sequels succumb to tired cliches and recycled scares, devoid of the creativity that once gripped us. They're like echoes of a nightmare, haunting yet hollow, leaving us yearning for the terror we once knew. Firstly, let's talk about the curse of repetition. One of the cardinal sins of horror sequels is relying too heavily on recycled scares and plot lines. You see, listeners, horror thrives on innovation and unpredictability. When a sequel simply regurgitates the same tired tropes and jump scares without adding anything fresh to the mix, it feels less like a thrilling continuation and more like a soulless cash grab. Then there's the issue of character assassination. Picture this. You spend an entire movie rooting for a compelling protagonist, only for the sequel to reduce them to a mere caricature of their former self. Whether it's turning a badass final girl into a helpless damsel in distress or transforming a complex villain into a one-dimensional monster, nothing kills the suspense faster than poorly written characters. Last but certainly not least, we have what I like to call the more is less paradox. You see, horror is often at its most potent when it leaves certain elements to the imagination. A sequel that bombards viewers with an excessive amount of CGI monsters, gore, and gratuitous violence can rob the story of its subtlety and psychological impact. Sometimes, less really is more. Let's also consider franchises that blend both elements. Take the Friday the 13th series, for example. It holds the record for the most sequels in a horror franchise. It all began with the original Friday the 13th film in 1980, kicking off a string of 12 subsequent films. These include Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3, Friday the 13th The Final Chapter, Friday the 13th A New Beginning, Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 7 The New Blood, Friday the 13th Part 8 Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell The Final Friday, Jason X, and Freddy vs. Jason, which notably crossed over with a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. There was also the 2009 reboot of the original film. And despite mixed reviews for some installments, this enduring franchise has left an indelible mark on the horror genre, gathering a dedicated fan base over the years. Or we can look at the Halloween franchise, which has undergone multiple timeline starts, leading to varied opinions on which films are the best. So, what's the secret to a spine-chilling sequel? Is it blood, guts, and more blood? Or perhaps a dash of self-awareness and humor? The answer eludes us, hidden in the depths of the unknown. Yet, one thing remains certain. Horror sequels will forever haunt our darkest dreams. And as we emerge from the shadows, one truth becomes clear. Whether there are discordant screams or a whisper in the night, sequels will forever carve their mark on the tapestry of horror. So the next time you encounter a sequel, tread carefully. You never know if it'll leave you screaming for more or longing for the silence of the void. And now, the answer to our terrifying trivia question. The first horror movie sequel was none other than Bride of Frankenstein, unveiled to the world in 1935 as the chilling continuation of the Frankenstein saga. And with that, we say farewell to another haunting expedition. Remember, my fellow horror lovers, to keep your torches lit and your shadows close. Until next time, may your dreams be twisted and your nightmares never cease. Pleasant screams, and good night. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of The Horror Within Me. Please rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening in from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to get notified when new episodes drop. I'm also on all major social channels, so be sure to check out my website, www.thehorrorwithinme.com, for all those links. And until next time, my friends, stay spooky!